All right, Bobby, let's go. I want to talk about this dirt tire situation. So I've gone in. I mean, obviously the biggest news of this is Bobby Pierce is suspended and the money lost and all of this coming from tire samples that were taken at Volusia, and I him and two other guys. I mean, it's not just him. But this is probably who is going to be your champion, right? I mean, this is
a preseason favorite. Yes.
Yeah, this is like when Chase Elliott gets thrown out. This is kind of the equivalent to that. So I am so confused on how all of this happens. I mean, I've heard that they pull the most samples from him, which they should, because he is the baddest ass in that series. But I keep going back to where it's like, okay, the samples weren't right. I mean, they went to lab after lab after lab, and I'm all confused when people talk about Simple Green and all this. And it's like, these tires weren't doctored up. Well, how the fuck did they not pass? Is my question.
I mean, if they ain't anything on them, they don't fail. If they're a regular tire, they're not going to fail the sniff test. They're not going to fail the lab test. Clearly, there was something on the tires, whether or not they wanted to admit it or not, blaming the racetrack chemicals and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not a rocket scientist and figure that out. All I know is that there are people way smarter than me that figured out there was something on those tires, and they let everybody know. And the results are you get tossed out, fined, and thrown out for a while.
Yeah, Devin Moran and Kyle Bronson, same thing. I mean, but it's not to the extent of your top star getting thrown out of this. And it's like I saw some stuff where it's like the penalty was too severe. Oh, well, maybe. I mean, but what's it supposed to be? You just lose your winnings or I don't know. And this was, so far back. And I guess this was in February when this happened. But when they're sending this shit off to labs, and it wasn't just one, apparently. I mean, when they're doing this like this, I mean, it's pretty apparent to me that something wasn't right. And it's like, well, they test him all the time. And again, this is not a slight at Bobby Pierce. I love that dude. But it's like, when somebody's on trial, when there's all this evidence, it's like, oh, okay, you had to have been doing something wrong, or somebody's out to get you, which I think this probably all started with, all that little somebody alerted somebody about something, and that's when this shit went down.
I mean, it had to be something. I mean, people don't, the best tech inspector is the person parked right next to your ass. Because they are looking at your shit and they're looking at your shit hard, and they want to make sure that you're not cheating, or they want to make sure that they're not looking over your shoulder to see if your ass is cheating. Mm-hmm. So somehow, some way, it's funny how what was it when Brandon Smith won that late model championship at San Antonio Speedway that year? Did the big burnout on the last night of the season and won the championship by like 5 points, hit the fence, all of that. They protested the transmission. The transmission was illegal. Same transmission he ran all year. Who decided that transmission all of a sudden was going to be teched when it hadn't been teched all year? Word got out. Somebody protested, and he got disqualified. That kind of that's an unfortunate outcome that you'd be running the same equipment all year, and then it finally gets deemed illegal last night, and you lose your championship. I don't know if that's as severe of a case as this, but it's somebody always sees something, and the rumors hit. And what do we say on the show sometimes? When all the rumors say the same thing, it's probably not a rumor anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way around this, and this was smart in the sense that, I don't know, let's just say for shits and grins that they were out to get Bobby Pierce. Well, they got other people too. So that's the best way that it would be one thing if you just hone into him and it's like, okay, we got him, but they went and got two other guys also. And that gives it more validity to where those samples were also not, whatever. And this, we were talking before the show, Bobby, and you mentioned about Kenny Wallace. I was listening to him and I'm here to tell you, dirt track, late model, folks, you may need to go the NASCAR route. What Kenny was talking about when you're racing during the day and you're changing all these tires and all that shit, maybe all that stuff needs to be impounded. Maybe that needs to be in one spot because they have way too much rain. And it's like the one thing I heard here with the Bobby Pierce thing. It's like, well, they tested him 6 times. How could it only be the one tire? Well, it just takes one. It just takes one sample. And I think that maybe this series kind of outgrowing its britches a little bit, and it's going to have to go NASCAR big time is the only way to prevent this shit from happening.
Well, they impound tires on a weekly show on some racetracks.
I know. Yeah. And that's, it's just all the back and forth, and where it's one of those things to where that's what I keep going back to. Well, there's no way. Well, there's no way. Well, there's no way. Well, how the fuck did it not? How did the sample come back that way? Is my question. And again, it's not. This would be a whole different story if it were. I don't know. Pick somebody else. Pick somebody else.
If it's not one of the biggest names in dirt late model racing, it's not as big of a story.
Exactly. And nobody would give a shit. And there wouldn't be everybody, making the case with, there's no way. There's absolutely no way.
It's the fans that are the ones who are like, there's no way it's cheating. There's no way. Da.
Yeah.
Which they should be, right? I mean, when you're a fan of somebody, you see no wrong in anything that they do. So that's one thing. That's why those guys, Bronson and a couple of, and especially Bobby Pierce, were really excited when Hudson O'Neal decided he was going to leave the Rocket House car.
Yeah, how'd that work out? And that's the whole thing right there to where this stuff happens. And it's like, don't let them do anything. Don't let them do anything. I mean, we've heard of tire. I mean, hell, who hasn't done it? I mean, we've heard of tire doping. I'm sure it happens in asphalt. And that's why I was asking Gina, because I was curious when it came to like Ricky Brooks, because with stuff happening like that's where Ricky is like, where that stuff will trigger stuff. But I mean, I just don't look. I hate that it happened, but I just don't understand how they didn't do it. How they didn't do it. And if people want to blow us up and be pissed off and explain it to us, that's great. I mean, I just don't understand the whole process. I just know that you can't enhance tires is what I know. I mean, I know you can sit there and scrape them and do all this other shit, but I mean, you can't doctor them up in any way at all.
And that's generally with every series on any surface.
That's anyone. That's
except for NHRA's got busted people for messing with the tires before.
Absolutely. And it's like fuel. You can't do shit to the fuel. Remember Michael Waltrip at Daytona? You can't do that shit. And when you do, the hammer drops. And yes, it sucks for whoever it is, but it was one of those things to where I kept hearing well, it had to be a random thing. No, it wasn't random. No, it wasn't random.
No, it was not.
Yeah. By the way, there's the QR code to get you to the merchandise thing. It's just easier that way. That takes you right to it. So, I mean, you guys can help explain this to me, because I just don't get how, and again, it's a valid argument. I mean, you don't want to see your guy get caught, but when it's like, I mean, it's pretty hard to refute this, right? I mean, I think they can, I even heard, I was listening to a guy that was talking about to where, possibly you could sue the World of Outlaws. I'm like,
well, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, if you get caught with your shorts down with somebody that's not your significant other, there's only so many ways you can plead the innocence on that deal. At some point, there is some intent involved in that scenario. So it's, whether you want to admit the intent or not, it's not the sanctioning body's idea or their place to judge intent. Their place is to judge yes and or no. Either yes, it had shit on it, or no, it didn't have any tire dope shit on it. Yeah. That's the sanctioning body's thing. That's the only place that they can be. They can't ledge intent on anything like that.
Yeah. And I mean, asphalt pull-offs, half of them are doped. Yeah. When you, dude, tell me, yes, I see it. I know. I know this. But this is where, you as a racer, I mean, it's always one of those things to where if there's something on your car or you're doing something that at some point there's going to be something random, something random on a random, may not have to be the biggest show of the year, but something's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna get alerted. Somebody's gonna get cued off, like you were just talking about, BC, and they're gonna catch you. They're gonna catch you at some point. And that looks like what happened. And I heard, where folks were talking about maybe it was the series. The series had an agenda. I mean, seriously, do you think the series wants to get rid of your most popular, your champion, the dude that helps the front gate the most? Do you really think that they just want to randomly get him out of the fucking show? That makes no sense. Don't give me that. Come on, man.
They're not picking on the meal ticket.
No, absolutely not. I mean, what they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out a way to even this out, because it happens. Like Buck was saying right there, happens in asphalt, happens everywhere. And I just, I don't know. It's going to be curious to see if this causes any, a domino effect. If folks back away from the series. I think now that there's more competition, does this drive drivers away to another series, or what's going to happen? Is there going to be an appeal? I mean, I don't know. It's funny to watch sometimes.
I mean, they but like two places to go. You got your World Outlaw late models, and you got your Lucas Oil late models. That's about if you're a big time player, that's about the only two places you can go.
No doubt. And I totally get the part where it's like folks are up in arms because when something like that happens, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a black eye on you. I mean, it's a black eye. And here's the other part of this. Kind of back to the series had an agenda. It's a black eye on the series right now. Yes, the drivers involved. Yes, absolutely, and their teams and the financial part. I totally get that. But what does the series look like right now? That's where folks are always in the corner of the driver, and I get that, and of the teams, because they are the performers. They're the stars. They're the ones that people come to see. That they go through the turnstiles to see these guys. But the series right now is like, holy shit, this is pretty massive in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, it is what it is, but I mean, it's, now you got the competitors. Well, how long was he running at before he got busted? How come this is why he's always setting fast times, smoking late heat races, winning races. I mean, it opens up a whole big can of worms that the series didn't want to deal with. Bobby Pierce doesn't want to deal with, that nobody wants to deal with, but it does make for great armchair promoting. That's for damn sure.
And this is where I talk about, the big asphalt races, to where it's like you've got 3 to 4 days of practice and it's nonstop, and they're slinging Hoosiers everywhere, or American racers or whatever, and it's like, yeah, man. I mean, this is happening. Mm-hmm. This is happening. It's just one of those things to where it's like it just happened to be the time where the series decided that they were going to run those tests and rerun. That's the other part of it, that where I go back to the validity of it. And I don't think that the validity should be questioned, because this is not me and you going out with a microscope and a fucking feeler gauge and sitting over here and something that's going to tell us what's in there. Like you said, these are really smart people. These are like chemists and scientists doing this. This isn't you and me in the garage drinking a couple of cold beers trying to figure out a tire compound.
Yeah, no. This is certified labs that their job is to test tires. And it's not cheap to get these tires tested. You see it done on the asphalt side too. They do it at some of the bigger races. They did it at the New Year's shootout there in South Carolina at Ron Barfield's place. Mm-hmm. To where that New Year's bash, they tested the tires there, had a baseline tire and had the 2 other tires and deemed it to be legal. So it works both ways. Sure
does. It's like when you go to the doctor and they draw blood. I mean, they don't just draw blood, keep it in the vial, and just run it through the microfiche and try to figure out if there's anything wrong with you. They send that shit off to the lab, and that's exactly what happened right here. I mean, it's a very streamlined process, and yeah, I mean, I hate it for the teams, but I mean, I just don't know how you can dispute it. I mean, it's like no, there wasn't anything there. Yes, there was. I mean, that wasn't cow shit on there. That was something else. It's something that you can't do.
Yeah, I mean, that's all there is to it. It's either there or it's not.
Yeah. We go from that, and then you go to Sunday, where you go to that mess over there happening with the resin on the racetrack. And I say mess Dude, I love that. I thought that was great, man. For all the folks, I think isn't it weird that it's